Hello and welcome to another episode of Movies That Make Us. I'm Jake.
I'm Tracy.
And I think I'm Val.
You think?
My screen is frozen, so I just see Jake smiling on my end.
Oh.
So
what more do you need? You're not frozen on our end, by the way.
Nothing else in my life. Like, that's all I need.
Well, you look great on our end, and everything looks like it's working fine on our side. So, Well, it has been... Oh, go ahead,
I was going to say the quarantine stream continues, but hopefully we're kind of heading out and maybe we can get together soon.
We're getting very, very close. This has been an interesting couple of weeks because we did hit the 1-year anniversary of everything going crazy with the quarantine and that kind of stuff. And I know this week at work, we hit the 1-year anniversary of when we were going to go home for a couple of weeks and then come back. And we also just got our video message from our boss that was like week 53 of being at home. And we're like, yeah, so much for a couple weeks. So it's been a crazy time. But I think you're right, Tracy.
2 weeks have turned into a year and 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. Things seem to be moving in that direction. And hopefully we'll all be together soon. I just wonder if you just gotten Val dropped out. She's on her phone. She's got some stuff going on this morning, and so we may get her in and out intermittently, and so we'll deal with that as it comes. For those watching the video, you probably saw her drop out. For those listening to the audio, that's why she hasn't said much in the last couple of minutes, because she did drop out. But hopefully we'll get her back soon. But yeah, it's been an interesting time, and we are on course to be together very soon and be able to record in person. So
Yay!
Hopefully in maybe about a month's time, maybe we'll be pretty close to ready to do that.
You're getting your second shot today. I get mine in a couple days. Val's getting her first shot today. So yeah. I think about a month from now, we could be looking at getting together, which would be wonderful.
Yeah, it would be awesome. It would be awesome. So exciting things happening. And amongst that, we've got the Snyder Cut that came out this week that a lot of people were very excited about. We're not going to talk about that on this episode because we want to remind everybody that on Thursday at 7 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, we are going to be going live on our Facebook stream and our YouTube channel. So make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you know when we've gone live. And make sure you're following us on Facebook. So whichever medium you want to watch us on, you'll be able to join that conversation. We wanted to give you a week to tackle this movie from when it came.
You need a week.
I think so.
It's to get through the 4-hour cut. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a long movie. I will say, and I don't, not to get into spoilers or anything like that, but I do like that it is kind of broken up into parts. So you really don't have to sit down and watch it in a 4-hour block. They've conveniently, whether on purpose, I mean, obviously they put the parts in there on purpose, but they've put it in spots where, an hour or so at a time, you can kind of tackle this movie. So,
okay. I'll pop out now and come back and I know where I'm at. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, we are going to talk about it. I think we all have a lot of thoughts on it.
And we have some special guests coming.
We do. We have, we've got a bunch from Stolen Droids and various Stolen Droids projects that are going to be on there. And we've also got a YouTuber from the 90s Kid YouTube channel who will be on there as well. So lots of special guests, a lot of people that have a lot to say on this. Yeah. So, and I know we've got a good mix. We've got a good mix of people who didn't care for it and people who really liked it. And so I think it'll be a good conversation. So you won't want to miss that. But it'll be an even better conversation if you guys join us live with your questions and comments. So
yes, absolutely.
And then the other big thing that came out this week was Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The first episode dropped of that.
Real quick initial thought.
I liked it. It felt a lot like the Winter Soldier movie, kind of the same kind of pacing and feel. And that's one of my favorite MCU movies is the Winter Soldier. And so it felt like the pacing was similar. Val's back, everybody.
Mobile podcasting unit. She's in the mobile podcasting unit. MPU.
So we were just filling in everybody on our Snyder Cut live stream that we're doing on Thursday, Val, and letting everybody know about that. And then just talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier. We may have lost her as she's traveling.
Yeah.
So we're gonna. I don't know that she would have.
Hopefully she'll pop back in.
All right, there you
There
go.
you go.
We had you frozen for a second there, Val, so I dropped you out because I didn't know if you'd be a big fan of your face. And the way that you froze.
I'm really not. Like in general, I'm not a big fan of my face, so I appreciate it.
I love that face.
Yeah, exactly.
There's something about like Facebook and StreamYard though. Every time it freezes me like on the worst face in the world. Like whatever your worst angle is, that's what Facebook needs to like capture when it freezes you like on a video or something. I don't know, Zuckerberg, what your plan is, but you suck.
Well, I think it's all part of his evil plan. He spent his whole life being awkward in social situations and feeling awkward, so he's like going to make the rest of us feel awkward whenever he can. He's got it pre-programmed in.
If I had the ability, I would do the same thing. I'm not going to lie.
So real quick, if we recast Time Bandits, would you cast Mark Zuckerberg as evil?
Oh, wow.
The thing. I wouldn't recast it because it's awful.
All right.
Here we go.
We're jumping right in. We'll talk Falcon and Winter Soldier later. Let's talk Time Bandits.
I wish she was more expressive. I wish she would explain how she felt.
Yeah. Val's always struggled with expressing
I'm
that.
super passive aggressive about my feelings these days.
Yeah, we've noticed.
I have paid about $5,500 to two therapists in the past 18 months, two years, whatever, to not be passive aggressive, and it's working. Therapy. Yeah. I say exactly how I feel, what I need.
Well, yeah, and don't waste passive aggressivism on a movie. Like, just tell us how you feel.
From 1981.
Yeah.
But you guys, Falcon Winter Soldier, like, I know a lot of people were like, oh, it's not what WandaVision was. Oh, it's not, and it's not supposed to be.
Right.
Right.
And kind of WandaVision, I think, was for the deep divers of the nerd community, right? Like, I banned all of it, but then after Ty from Multiplane Podcast, after he explained a lot of things to me after each episode, I really enjoyed each episode a little bit more. And I do love how WandaVision ended and where it's leading us into the MCU. But what I love about Winter Soldier is that I get to see two characters that I love again in a universe that I understand and love. And you guys know how much I love getting to know like the backstory of a superhero or a villain. And I really enjoyed the first episode.
Yeah, there's more character development in that 50 minutes than those guys got in the previous 10 movies.
Yeah, which is great because I love what we're seeing so far with them. And I agree. And like I said, I feel like the pacing is very similar to what we saw in the movie The Winter Soldier. And it's one of my favorite MCU movies. And what I love about the MCU is they realize that each of their characters are different. So each of their movies and each of their series are going to be different. To your point, Val, about WandaVision being completely different than what this series is. Well, yeah, because these are totally different characters. And if it was exactly the same, I would be a little bit like, don't give me a cookie cutter. Everything's going to be the same. That's kind of what DC has done with their Arrowverse movie or series. Like each series feels the same. I love that the movies are different. I love that the series are different. And so I'm excited. Episode 1 was good, and I'm excited to see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
Episode 1 was already controversial, and I love it. Like, you're enjoying where it's going, and then they just hit you with the big stuff, like right out of the gate. I'm not going to say what it is.
Yeah.
But I miss, Endgame, like, was the end for a while, and I just miss having that feeling that the MCU gave us. They gave us such a great feeling every time we went into the theater, even Iron Man 2. Like, I even got the feeling then, even though it's not, my favorite Iron Man movie, but Like, I think a lot of us just really miss that and need it, and that's what you get from this series. And it was just a nice feeling when I got to watch it earlier in the week. So
yeah, I agree. All right, let's talk about our March Madness movie pick of the week. And Tracy, you picked this one. It's 1981. Terry Gilliam, Gilliam. I never know. It's like GIF and GIF. Is it?
It's GIF and it's Gilliam.
Okay, well, it's GIF and it's Gilliam. Got it.
It's
all right.
Yeah.
but like he wrote this, he directed it. If you know some of his other stuff, he produced it. He was the director on Monty Python and the Holy Grail. He's also done a bunch of other movies. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, when I was looking through, was one of the movies that he's directed. So he's got a very distinct style, and that style is, it's going to be weird. It's just going to feel weird.
Mm-hmm.
And this is exactly what you expect from a 1981 Terry Gilliam directed movie. To me, it was weird and offbeat, and everything that I expected it to be from this particular director and writer and producer.
Yeah, so Gilliam, he's an interesting guy. He was the only American in Monty Python. Mm-hmm. He moved to England and later renounced his U.S. citizenship and became a naturalized British citizen. He started off as an animator. Mm-hmm. He started off as a guy who was doing cartoons and little animations, and then started doing the animations for the Monty Python sketches, and went on, like you said, to direct Holy Grail. He's done the Fischer King. He did 12 Monkeys. He's done so much stuff, and I love what you said, Jake. He is such a distinctive filmmaker. It reminds me of a couple weeks ago when we did staff picks and we talked about Tim Burton, and we talked about how you can tell that it's a Tim Burton film. Terry Gilliam is the same way, and this is a movie that I saw when I was young. I remember seeing it when I was like 10 or 12 on VHS. I fell in love with it because I loved the idea of time travel and the map and good and evil and stuff like that. So it was interesting to go back and revisit. But this was one of the movies that kind of launched my love of cinema. This, I'd say Star Wars, the Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Those were kind of the films that really spurred my imagination into filmmaking. Mm-hmm. And Val's face is priceless.
So Val, from your face, it appears that you feel very similar about this movie as Tracy.
Yeah. I want to know why the crap you didn't choose 12 Monkeys. It's like 12 Monkeys for me, like I would put in that category with, like, when I watched it, I was just really like, I didn't know you could do this in filmmaking. I love Star Wars. I love, all the movies that I love that got me into wanting to be a filmmaker. And I'm a huge fan of his and all of his movies. And I thought I had seen this movie, and then I turned it on and I was like, okay, some of these characters like look familiar, but I'm not like remembering a whole lot about this. Mm-hmm. And as I keep going, I'm like, what the heck am I watching right now? You guys know I love weird and I love big movies. But maybe it was because I've spent like the whole week revisiting, the Snyderverse and the Snyder Cut. And then I went back and watched like the other movies leading up to, just to get like this taste in my mouth. Well, that taste maybe hasn't gone away because I just was like, I don't know. Like I usually love tonight. I'm gonna watch the new Nicolas Cage movie that's gonna be on Netflix, where he's a jiu-jitsu world saver.
Oh, that's yes.
What you think about Nicolas Cage,
Clearly.
But I'm all into the bad movies, but this one just didn't. I don't
didn't
know.
Work for you. Well, and like I said,
I'm laying in my bed and I go and I'm watching this movie, and then Dave comes in from work and he's like, what the heck are you doing? Like, what is happening? What are you watching? And I thought for sure he'd be into the ridiculousness, but I don't know.
Didn't grab Dave either.
Maybe it wasn't the right time. I don't know.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, and so when I say that I would put it in the same arena as Raiders, as Star Wars, I'm talking about my 10-year-old self.
Yeah.
This is not my current self. 12 Monkeys. Time Bandits is not a perfect movie. It's only an hour and 50 minutes, but it's still a little bloated. It could use some trimming. But there's stuff in there that I really like. And one of the things is, this is a movie about imagination. And so many of his films is. And this is about, and he said this is part of a trilogy of his films. The second one being Brazil, which is a fantastic movie. And then you have The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. So you have the experiences through the eyes of a child in Time Bandits. You have the man in Brazil in his 30s. And then you have the older man in Munchausen. So he's a very interesting filmmaker, and I wish he was a better person. Unfortunately, a lot of his, in kind of this age of social media, we're kind of getting into the mindset more of some of our artists, and you kind of go, I'm not sure if I like what's there, And so I kind of have this relationship with him now where I'm like, but as a filmmaker, I appreciate what he does, and he is so different.
Yeah. And I agree that it does feel a little bloated. It was interesting. I was watching it, and my son came in, and he was watching it with me for a few minutes, and I wasn't overly worried. It's rated PG. There's really not anything. It is kind of geared more toward the kids, even in the humor and everything. Because I say that because you can watch like Monty Python on the Holy Grail that's also PG, but that was before PG-13 movies, and there are a few things where you're like, okay, I don't want you to ask any questions about what they just said there because I don't want to explain it. But this one, there isn't any of that. So he's watching it with me, and he's asking me questions. Like, it blew his mind that his name was Kevin, like the kid in Home Alone, and things like that. And then he was like, he's watching it for a few minutes, and it's like the part where the giant comes out of the water. They're on the ship, and it's like the hat of a giant, and he comes out of the water, and he kind of looks at me. He's like, Dad, what kind of movie is this even? And I'm like, it is a silly, absurd movie. He's like, yeah, I like silly movies sometimes. And then he kind of walked out. So that was Ben's review of this movie.
That's what I'm stealing Ben's review.
Way to go,
like
Ben.
Silly movies sometimes. I think it was just, there's so many like jolting moments. Like even in the beginning of the film, when the characters are just jumping in and out of like the scene. And I'm just like, what? Like, again, I had just watched a movie with horrific special effects, so like I didn't expect much.
Okay, but that's one of the things that I love about this movie is that it is these homemade special effects on a shoestring budget done in the early 80s.
Wait till next week. You are gonna love Rubber so much.
But like, I love the fact that they built a false wall and then they like push it down the hallway. Like, that's
I did like that. There were
creative.
some really inventive things. I have to say, like the inventiveness of the movie, I really enjoyed. Like once you take just like the nonsensical stuff out, like I really like, if you think about how to make a movie and how to make one like with no budget and just have really good time with it, like they did a really good job. And I probably did watch this when I was 10 again. I thought I had, and it seemed familiar, but then I was like, but I thought I'd remember these things.
Yeah.
It definitely is very inventive. And I think this is the thing. I'd like to rewatch it again, like with my nephews. You know what I mean? Like I'd like to kind of have that moment instead of with my 3 stinky dogs in my room, on a Friday night.
Yeah.
After visiting the Snyderverse. Yeah.
All week long.
And I can appreciate that. I think that's a fair statement about the movie for sure. And I think it's interesting because it is so weird and nonsensical, but at the same time, it's so deep. Like this whole idea of good versus evil, the supreme being, when he says, "Oh, like God," and they're like, "Well, we're not like on first name basis with him or whatever." Like,
I love that
there were
line.
some good lines in the movie like that. There were some good lines.
Yeah, it's just an interesting movie. I like movies that take a look and series like The Good Place is another one that does this, where they take a look at the traditional mythos and understanding of the creation in the Judeo-Christian sense, and then they say, this idea of God and good versus evil and everything else, and they take it and put it into different terms and kind of deconstruct that a little bit. And I think that this movie does that with, this is what we did. We helped create a bunch of stuff, and then we created this really stinky tall tree. And so then the Supreme Being put us on this repair task of like fixing all these holes in the universe. And I'm like, like it's in a lot of ways that makes sense. And it's like an updated version of, we only had 7 days to create it and all this. Like
there's going to be holes in the universe.
Yeah. So I love that kind of stuff. And so for me, that was really enjoyable in the show. I do feel like, similar to Monty Python and the Holy Grail, this does drag on in the middle, and it does feel a little bit bloated, where it's like, okay, are we still going with this? Like what? Okay. We're still in the middle of
it. It could have lost 20 minutes. At an hour and a half, I think it would play better. Yeah.
I agree.
But with that. I mean, it just the inventiveness of it, having them fall through the universe, and they're trying to get rich, so they're trying to rob people. And when you get Ian Holm as Napoleon, you get Sean Connery as Agamemnon.
The casting in this is incredible. Like, just these small parts, and we're not talking about like Sean Connery like before. This is post James Bond big star Sean Connery. Like, and he's just in this small part, and he's just in there.
And that's the thing with Gilliam, is he makes these weird movies, but he gets incredible actors to be in them. 12 Monkeys, Brad Pitt, Bruce Willis, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro, I think. Even in the La Mancha Don Quixote movie, he got Adam Driver.
Right.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is the only movie I got up and walked out of, by the way. But I have to say, it's because I literally just got out of film school, like a month or two. Like I was still in this pretentious, like, film school brain. If you've never gone to film school, you don't understand it. But I would put it in the same vein as somebody that has just become vegan. And so they have to tell everybody how amazing they are because they're vegan. That's like a kid right out of film school.
Nailed it. You nailed it.
I'm sorry if you're vegan. I don't hate you, but you have to admit, like, but yeah, so I was in LA. I saw it with my film school friends, and I was like, what the crap is this? This is awful. And I got up and I walked out of the film. Like, I can't even imagine. Could you imagine me now? Like, getting up and walking out of a movie? I've sat through some really big stinkers.
Yeah.
But you go through, you watch it all the way to the end. You don't give up.
That's awesome.
So I've seen all of it since, but like, there's just this thing about his movies, I guess. They really, like, that is, I like him as a director because he really does hit a chord with you either way. Like, there's no middle ground, and I do like that. You're not going to be bored.
You're not going to be bored in a Gilliam film.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think you're right, Val. I think there are a lot of the movies that we've talked about, that we've mentioned that he's done, people either really, really like him or they really, really hate him. And it's funny because it's not necessarily the same group for every movie either. Because there's going to be some people that are like, oh yeah, I love, 12 Monkeys, but no, I really hated, Time Bandits or Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas or something like that. So it's not like you're necessarily going to, they're out there, I'm sure, people that are like, oh, if it's Terry Gilliam, I'm on board and I'm going to watch it no matter what. But I think you can find different groups for each movie that either hated it or loved it. And there's not a lot of in between.
So one movie that I highly, if I were to do like a double feature with this one, that I really recommend, it's a documentary and it's called Lost in La Mancha. And back in the early 2000s, Gilliam has always wanted to do the Don Quixote story. This is a passion piece for him. He's tried to get it started and it's failed like 4 or 5 times. They finally start to film, and this documentary crew is with them to kind of do behind the scenes. And this is like the most epic collapse of a movie ever. Like everything that can go wrong goes wrong. The set gets flooded and washes all the equipment out. They have actors who get injured. There's all these issues that he has to deal with and try and overcome. And eventually they shut down the movie. And then they remade it like 20 years later with Adam Driver, and they finally got it done. But Lost in La Mancha is just, in a lot of ways, it sums up Gilliam. Gilliam has always felt like an outsider. He's always felt like a freak and kind of a weird guy.
Never know.
And he
doesn't come through in his films at all.
Nope, doesn't flavor at all. And so he rallies against religion. He rallies against traditional storytelling. He rallies against he's always fighting. And in some ways that's really good for a film. But then there are other films of his where it's like, I don't know. He's one of my favorite directors just because he is so different.
Yeah. For sure. And I can always appreciate that. And I enjoyed watching this movie. It was very nostalgic for me. It is very 80s. It's very 80s. It's very 80s fantasy type movie. Yes. And like the cheap special effects, there's just something about sitting down and watching a movie that was made in the 80s that was some kind of fantasy type, like Never Ending Story or Labyrinth or Time Bandits fits in that same genre for me, where it just, like, that's what we grew up on. And now when you think fantasy, you think more Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, that kind of thing. There's a lot more big budget stuff out there, including like even Harry Potter is in there. And it's just like, I miss there's just something special about sitting down and watching a movie that you have to have a little bit of imagination to actually escape into that world. But once you're in there all the way. And it is cheesy, cheap effects, but it just works on some level for me for some reason.
I think that if I was to double feature this, because it would probably make me enjoy a little bit more, is like putting The Last Starfighter with this, like doing a double feature with that. And this, because I feel like they have kind of the same feel. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, again, like movies, if you're not in the right headspace to watch them, they can be good or bad. Like, you know, but I do think like watching it with my nephews, and then like, okay, let's do Last Starfighter, this movie in the same night would be really fun. Like, I think that would be a good.
I like that combo. Yeah. I like that combo a lot.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I mean, this was an interesting movie. It definitely fits in our March Madness offbeat movies. I think,
what was your favorite part of the film?
Favorite part of the film?
Favorite moment, Tracy? Since it was your pick.
I don't know if I have a favorite moment. There's some stuff that sticks out to me. When I was a kid, I loved the idea of the map with the holes in the universe. I loved the invisible barrier. I thought that was just so cool. And all it is they just put up like sheets of glass, but it was so cool to think that there's just this invisible barrier and the castle behind it. And going back and watching it, I love the little cameos of Michael Palin and Shelley Duvall.
Yes.
I thought Shelley Duvall is like the medieval princess who's getting robbed and tied to the tree. And then when they get on the Titanic and they're all just lounging on the chairs on the Titanic, and then the boat starts to stink, and the guy's like, it's not like they said take a trip on a boat and hit an iceberg. Like, how were we supposed to know?
Yeah. Well, I love that joke with Shelley Duvall and Michael Palin that it keeps playing throughout the film. And Ben even said, he's like, why do they? Yeah. He's like, why are they still, or what are they talking about? Why do they keep talking about stuff and whatever? And I'm like, well, they keep showing up because it's called a running gag. And I explained to him what a running gag was. And then he said, okay. Like, but I love when they hit the invisible barrier and one of them says, oh, this is what an invisible barrier looks like. Yes, correct. Like nothing. It looks like nothing. And it was awesome.
The other line
okay.
Hear me out. Okay. Last Starfighter, Time Bandits, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Sandwich it.
I'm in. I'm not a huge fan of Hitchhiker, but
I was going to say, I really didn't like.
It's basically Hitchhiker with a smaller budget. Like, as you're describing this movie to me, if I wouldn't have seen this movie, I would think that you're talking about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
And that's a great point. The book is so much better than any film adaptation because I think it's so hard to adapt that book to a film or even a series. And really, honestly, and that's a great point because if you want to know British humor, you got to watch Monty Python. You've got to watch some of the Terry Gilliam. Even though he was American born, he really gets it, especially in this time of his career. You've got to read Douglas Adams, and you've got to read Terry Pratchett, right? Yeah. Like those are if you want to understand when people talk about British humor and that really offbeat, like that, those are some of the classic examples that I think of. And so I agree, like this is in the same vein as Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The newest movie, I just didn't really care for that much, but the books are amazing and the humor is very similar to what this is for sure.
So Val, there is an opportunity for redemption for this film for you because Apple TV has purchased the rights to the film and they are going to be making a limited series. And the pilot episode, it will be produced by Gilliam. He won't be directing, but the script for the series and the first episode will be directed by one of our favorite directors, Taika Waititi. And if there's anybody that can play in a Terry Gilliam universe and make it more palatable for Val, I think it's Taika Waititi. I think he could do a lot of fun with this.
This is the thing about Taika, and I know I'm going to get some hate mail, so you can tell him where to send it.
Podcast at moviesthatmakeus.com.
Taika is hit and miss for me. I really like him. I love his creative mind. Sometimes I think he does need to get checked, and I don't think anybody checks him. But I do think like this is right up his alley. Will I enjoy it more? I don't know. I think I need a palate cleanser. I think because since Monday to this Monday, like for this whole week, I have been in like the DC universe, which is good if it happened like before 2000. Like, you know what I mean? But
you should rewatch Shazam. That might help clear you.
Yeah, I mean maybe. I don't know. But again, I think I just needed to be in like a different frame of mind to watch it. But I like ridiculous, and I am going to give this movie a C. I'm just going to throw that out there. It is a C for me. There are things about it that I appreciate. There are things that I think as a kid, like I would have appreciated more seeing it. But then I do also think that Gilliam is a little pretentious, and we all know that. He knows that. He's said it. Like I've seen some interviews and he knows who he is. And so it wasn't necessarily, I think it's because I know it wasn't necessarily that he was trying to make a kid's movie. He was just trying to make this movie that was ridiculous. People gave him like full whatever to do it. And so I think it's a little bit different for me. If you're a director, producer trying to make a kid's movie for a kid, I think there's a different respect. He was trying to make this ridiculous movie because he wanted to, and he could, and he was giving full carte blanche to do it, and nobody checked him, you know? And so there were a lot, like you said, if you cut like 30 minutes out of this film and tightened it up a little bit, I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more, and I probably would have given it like a B-.
Okay. Yeah, to me, this is a Terry Gilliam film through the lens of a child. I don't know that it was. I mean, yes, it is a project that he and Michael Palin came up with and wrote. He did help produce it. It was also produced by George Harrison from the Beatles. who
That's
wrote
cool.
the theme song, or not the theme song, but wrote the song that plays over the credits. He wrote that specifically for the film.
Nice.
Wow.
But nostalgia wise, and this, we've talked about this before, is sometimes you have the nostalgia rating and you have the current film reviewer rating. Nostalgia rating, I would have said this was like an A-. I loved it. I love the line. I think my favorite line in the movie is at the very end where he goes, "Mom, Dad, it's evil. Don't touch it." And the family explodes, you know? I mean, it's just so...
Mm-hmm.
But the Supreme Being, make sure you clean up all the evil. You know, you don't want to leave any evil laying behind. And I think, but as a current reviewer, as in the stage of my life that I'm at, it is bloated. It could easily lose 20 minutes out of its hour 50 running time, and not missed it. You could probably even tighten it to 30 minutes gone, like Val said. But like Jake said, it does have that 80s feel. It's a Gilliam film. If you've never experienced Gilliam, this is a fairly safe place to start. You don't want to start with Fear and Loathing.
Right.
12 Monkeys, I would say 12 Monkeys and Time Bandits are the introductory to the Gilliam mindset and universe. I'm going to give this one a B. It's not perfect, but there's some really good lines. There's some really good cameos. I love how different it is. I love how inventive it is. So I'm giving it a B.
Yeah. I think it's a B for me as well. It's enjoyable. It's fun. It's wacky. It's everything you expect it to be, knowing who did it, who wrote it, who directed it. The child actor, Kevin, who's in it, does a really good job. And just, he's in it throughout the whole film. He does fine in that role. And I think that's good too. And just overall, it was just enjoyable and fun and weird. And sometimes I like enjoyable, fun, and weird movies. And this one hit the spot for me this week.
That's what this month is for.
Yeah.
But what other film is going to cast, I don't know the correct term to use, but shorter people in major roles like that? I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is okay to say, but I mean, it's just the truth. But during the 80s, during that time, there was actually a lot of movies made with the same small people cast.
Yes.
They did a Snow White series with them in it. And then there was also, like, Masterpiece Theater was doing a bunch. And that's why I first turned it on, I was like, I feel like I've seen this movie. But then I was like, well, no, it's just that a lot of the same small people, little people. I don't know the right.
I don't know the correct term.
Term that were in it, and it was really, that nostalgia was really great for me, because I remember watching that Snow White version with them in it from the 80s, and I watched it probably once. That nostalgia was great. Like, I really, really liked that.
Yeah, for sure.
So next week we got a doozy coming.
We do.
I've never seen this film. I'm very interested to see it. I'm interested to see Jake's reaction. We've got the movie Rubber.
Yeah,
give us a quick rundown on that film.
All right, and hold on, because I'm going to have to show my ID really quick. I'm getting my shot right now, and these people are standing out in the rain for me so that I am able to get my shot at the Maverick Center today. Oh, looks like the line. Okay, so this is the thing about volunteers. Rubber. Yeah, all of the volunteers. Thank you. So this is the thing about Rubber. My fiance Dave, I call him my ex-boyfriend. I'm
sure he appreciates that. My ex-boyfriend and fiance Dave.
Dave. He was given this movie as a referral because people knew that as we got deeper into the first part of the quarantine, when we had to all stay home, like April, May of last year, that we were watching just really bad movies. So somebody's like, have you guys seen the movie Rubber? And so he found it and we watched it. And it is like, I think that the grades that I think we're going to give this are going to be, a little bit like today, that we split them up in the fact of what the movie is might be a low grade, but what they did creatively in this movie.
Yeah.
Like a sentient tire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I do. I feel like, because if you've ever had to make, like, I think we've all made short films, right? And I feel like if you have ever had to make a short film with almost no budget, makes sense, you're gonna really like respect the way that they did these things and the tricks. There's a lot of tricks, like camera tricks, film tricks in this movie, because I don't know, maybe they made it with like $25, maybe $150, like maybe.
They're making Robert Rodriguez look like a big spender.
They're like sitting around one day and they're like, "Hey, let's make a movie about a killer tire. Sounds great. Let's do it. Like, start
really
right now."
So it was. I want to look it up and I haven't. But every time I think about it, I'm like, okay, I need to look this up. But every time I look it up, I want to, or watch it or think of it. I want to look it up and see if it was someone's like thesis project at film school. You know what I mean? Because it just it has that feel, but it's not like the depressing film school movies that you usually see. Like, it's the creative guy that's going to be the Robert Rodriguez later. You know what I mean? Like but it's weird and it's bad and it's amazing.
I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah. And in between recording that episode and recording this episode, we have a live episode on Thursday that we just want to remind everybody about again. It is going to be taking a look at the Snyder Cut, officially titled Zack Snyder's Justice League. And we're going to be talking about it with some friends. And that is this upcoming Thursday at 7 p.m. Make sure you follow us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you get alerted when that does go live. It's going to be a lot of fun, but it will be even more fun if you guys are all there participating and asking us questions and commenting as well. So it should be a lot of fun. Busy week, but it'll be good.
Hi, how's it going? Good.
Val's getting a COVID shot live on the air.
I have a moose podcast. I have to do it at the same time. So. I don't know what you needed. Yeah, so I'm getting my first dose, guys. But keep talking about the Snyder Cut.
All right. We'll keep talking about it. But yeah, so that's coming up this week as well. And then shortly after that, first week in April is our 100th episode, and so that's again going to be another live episode that we're doing.
So exciting.
Yeah, it is awesome. To make it to 100 is a big deal as far as podcasts go. A lot of them don't make it that far. And to enjoy it as much as we have has been great as well. So.
I don't know if I brought a pen, guys.
Uh-oh.
Dang it.
Do they not have a pen for you to use?
I don't think so. We're outside. Like, I'm at the Maverick Center, so it's like a drive-through.
I thought they might have like a clipboard.
I'll find one.
Yeah.
But I have my card.
Prick your finger and like write it in blood. You'll be fine.
So I'm hoping, I can't hear you guys very well because it's kind of loud out here, but I'm hoping that for our 100th episode, we can actually do it together.
That would be wonderful.
That would be awesome.
We will all be...
Even if we've got to space out a little bit, I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah. That's my hope.
Yay!
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Val, for getting your shot. Everybody.
Yes.
In Utah, if you're 16 and older, you can set an appointment starting the 24th. Do it. Get it done. And
get that shot, man.
Thanks so much. Bye. All right. Thanks, everybody, so much for listening. We really appreciate it. We can't wait to see you on Thursday as we talk about the Snyder Cut. And in the meantime, we won't see you at the movies.
Don't touch it. It's him.
This has been a Stolen Droids Media production.